of the presentation. Thank you, Pacha. And then I have a coworker, Pacha, who is online with our folks. And so she's also going to be sharing some of the presentation with me. Okay. So we're going to kind of go back and forth, and I'm hoping you can hear everything okay because I have the speaker right in front of me. And then we're going to be giving up some space today for two community presenters, both Abby and then also Christopher, who will be joining us a little bit later. So I'm just going to shut the door in the back so we don't get any hallway noise. And I'm excited. Most of you already know who I am. One of the members of the Elder Network staff, and I'm also the respite care coordinator. So I get to work with most of you in different caregiver settings. And then my coworker, Achad, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Elder Network's newest staff member. I am the new Dodge County program manager, so helping out Holly facilitate some of the group respite out in Dodge County.
Yes, so we're happy to have you. So like I said, we're going to kind of go back and forth. For those of you in person, you have a notebook binder that is yours. So feel free to make any notes in it that you want. We've added some handouts in there about some upcoming education events that are coming up in the community, as well as what Elder Network has to offer for family caregivers. For those of you who are joining us over Zoom, Pachad did add all of these same handouts and the workbook as attachments. So if you had an opportunity to print them off, feel free to follow along. Otherwise, we will be showcasing it also during the meeting today, so everybody has all the same information. Pachad, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you okay.
Awesome. So one thing you hate, right, when you're on a Zoom and you're like, I can't hear what they're saying. You're missing half of it. So today you guys are all here to learn a little bit how to plan for the unexpected. This workbook that we're going to be utilizing comes out of the Minnesota Caregiving Portal or True Alta website. Some of you have possibly logged in and are using that website for multiple caregiver resources, but a couple years back, it was 2022 was the first time we offered this. So it's been quite a few years already that we kept hearing from family caregivers, you know, caregiving is hard enough, but my biggest fear is what if something happens to me? So this is really why we created this workshop around what they already put together. So why recreate the wheel? So Pacha and I are going to kind of go through the workbook, but dive a little bit deeper too as we go through. All right. Pacha, you're up.
Yeah, so now I'm going to talk about a little bit of the overview for today. Today, you will learn how to make an emergency planning kit, learn what information to include about care receivers if an emergency arises with a primary caregiver. We'll be showing a video from our dementia educator, Teepa Snow, and we'll also get to hear a bit about how to go about after a hospitalization or rehabilitation, a plan for a safe and realistic return home. And this will be with a Mayo Clinic discharge planner and home health provider. Um, then we'll go into learning about how to do some self-care with some tips, and then we will then end off talking about community resources. So I wanted to first draw our attention to why is self-care crucial? Self-care means taking the time to do things that help you live well and improve both your physical health and mental health. This can help manage stress, lower your risk of illness, and also increase your energy. Even small acts of self-care in your daily life can have a big impact. So this could be even just taking deep breaths when you need to, or using guided imagery, so focusing on a positive image in your mind, or even calling a friend. We know that everyone benefits if a caregiver is taking care of themselves while taking care of others. And part of that is asking for help and building your community of support. So, being willing to ask and accept help is part of self-care. I wanted to draw our attention to the image on the right. Um, I think that it's a good example of why self-care is important. You can't pour from an empty cup, just like you can't give your best if your needs aren't met. So you have to make sure to fill up your cup first before you can care for others as well.
All right. So really, what is an emergency plan? Well, there's a point in time when maybe a crisis stops you from being able to care for your loved one. Maybe there was an accident or injury. Maybe you're just out of town for a while. Or maybe there is been a hospitalization with you and or your care receiver, as well as maybe just recognizing that the care that they need is more than what you can provide at home. If you are the main caregiver and others, you need to recognize others may not know how to care for them as well as you do. And so we want to put their health first and reduce any kind of risks in terms of safety. So an emergency plan can help both you and your loved one be at ease. What we have in front of you is the workbook, which they recommend keeping in a safe place, filling it out as you need it, and even if you want to put like plastic protector sleeves over each one to keep it from getting wet or damaged, they do recommend that as well. This is something that you could also share with family or friends as you filled it out, or being able to keep it, save it on a flash drive or have it on your computer for safekeeping. Thinking about how would I use this workbook? Really, we wanted to include resources like the special forms that is necessary, whether it's health, legal, financial, maybe special worksheets that you're using along the way to help with all of those forms, and maybe even checklists to make sure nothing's been forgotten. I'm working on this plan step by step. Any small piece of information you can write down will help in case of an emergency. We all know that when we're in an emergency, certain things can get missed, right? And so this is something you want to do before that emergency might arise. My question to both those of you who are in person and those who are joining us on Zoom is, what do you think you would want to have in your emergency plan? Where to go if you need to go to the ER, how to get there, where the parking spots are, whether or not there's valet parking or not. Okay. And that's something that you don't want to be doing when you're trying to get to the ER, right? I've been through that already. Sure. Okay. Yeah. So how are you going to get places and tips along the way? Okay. What else would you have in your emergency plan?
Your emergency contacts.
Yeah, emergency contacts.
And probably your power of attorney and your advanced directives.
Good. Good. Anyone on Zoom have a thought?
Yeah, we got a chat from Connie, medical history, medication.
Good. Okay. So as you can see, there's a variety of things that can be included, and this is just kind of a starting place. So use these workbooks as your own. Make notes to yourself, things you would want to add if you don't see it here. This truly is just a guide. Hey, Pacha.
Yep. Okay. So, as we were saying before, we're using the workbook that I should have sent to all of you online and all of you have in person. I will be referring to pages 7 through 13. So, if you want to follow along in the book, you can turn to page 7. Um, Again, so all of you mentioned like really important things to include about your care receiver, right? So different information can include their full name and their date of birth. An important tip for this is that you can use pen that for things that won't change. So writing down their full name or their date of birth. But for instance, maybe for your emergency contacts, you might want to use a pencil because their address or their telephone number can change. So those would be some things that would be helpful. Um, Next is doctor information and hospital information. So making sure to write down what their primary hospital is, or even putting down different doctors for different specialties, because we do know that our care receiver might have different needs, so they might see different doctors. Um, Writing your provider's information in pencil too might be helpful because we know that providers can change. So someone might retire or someone might get a new job. So that might be something nice. In addition to this, you might want to write down the date that you started seeing your provider. So you know how long that relationship has been established. Next is the insurance plan. Again, we want to put into perspective that if you are at any point in a position where you can't be involved, the person who's helping take care of your care receiver has all of the information and is equipped to deal with that situation. So, for instance, let's say that your care receiver has to go to the emergency room. It might be important to have an insurance plan on hand so that they know who should be contacted in case there is an emergency. Next is a list of medications. So on the worksheet, they have the amount of the medication and the time that they should take the medication. I think it's important to also write how are they taking that medication? Are they taking it by mouth? Are they taking it with applesauce in the morning? Um, what what medications are being taken more frequently? Or more chronically? Are there PRN, which are as needed medications? And what kind of situations would they be taking those medications? Those are really important details to go into when you're talking about medication information. Um, Another important thing to incorporate into this list is which pharmacy do you go to when you're not able to refill medications, like where can they go to get more medications? Um, I also think a really important part about medications is learning what is that medication for. So actually writing down like I take lisinopril or like I take this high blood pressure medication to lower my blood pressure. That might be really important for someone who isn't like on a day-to-day actually taking care of your care receiver. So it's important to put down why they're taking that medication so that they know I probably shouldn't miss like giving this medication.
Mhm.
Next is your health history, the care receiver's health history. So putting down different medical conditions that they might have, like congestive heart failure or Alzheimer's dementia, other really important medical conditions that they might have, allergies such as like pollen, their blood type, their immunizations. Do they have the flu vaccine or the COVID vaccination? Um, and also just preferred language or tips for communication. I used to work in the ED, and we had a patient come in once with locked-in syndrome, which is paralysis of voluntary muscles, except for eye movements. Um, if we didn't know that one blink meant yes and two blinks meant no, we wouldn't have been able to give them the comfort and the security that they needed to be in our hospital. So being able to write down different tips for communication is very helpful, as well as different dietary restrictions or meal preferences. What kind of foods do they like to eat? Are we trying to get them to eat new foods? Also, different mental health and mood, like do they feel better during the day? Do they get more agitated at night? What are some comfort items or tips for navigating those situations? What do you do in those times where they are agitated? We know that these tips might not work every time, but it's important to be consistent as much as we can. Um, the last one on this page is safety concerns. So it's important to write down if your care receiver is a fall risk or a wanderer, if there's a chance of elopement, or even overeating. Like, should we keep snacks in a separate area, or what kinds of foods should we have out for them to have? And then the next thing that you should include about your care receiver is personal interests or their personal history. We know that there's more to a person than just the diagnosis, so it's important to write about what kind of social supports they have, what kind of religion they follow, what are their interests and hobbies. You know, the main point is that we want to keep routines and be consistent so that they can have a sense of normalcy and comfort, not only for them, but also for us. So even if it's keeping the light on in the hallway so that they go can sleep better or maybe go to the bathroom more easily. We want to make sure that their overnight stay is better, and we want to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable in a different environment. And then in addition to all of this information, Truralta also they have this sample of a weekly schedule. So if you think that that might be beneficial for your loved one, I would definitely make some notes about different things that they do in the morning, afternoon, and evening.
All right, thank you, Kacha. Next, we're going to kind of jump into the medical equipment and aids that the care receiver might need that we don't want to forget about. Again, you're in 24/7 with this person. You're going to know their ins and outs so well. So sometimes this is like easily overlooked, right? It might seem like, well, yeah, of course I wouldn't forget their hearing aids or their cane. But again, if somebody came in that wasn't used to spending as much time with them as you are they going to know, where these things are at? So some things just to keep in mind in terms of does your person wear hearing aids, or I was with a client once who actually wore like this microphone over like a necklace, and it connected to her hearing aids and she could hear the TV better. So she didn't have to have the TV so loud for everyone else to go deaf. And I thought, oh, that'd have been so brilliant for me to know about that for my dad. Because Lord knows he needed it really, really loud. So sometimes there's just different kind of adaptive equipment that has been working well for your person. But if it's not out in public or other people don't know about it, they might not know to grab it, right? Because maybe you only have it in the living room for when they're watching TV, but you don't have it in other rooms because it's not necessary. Or even glasses. Maybe your person only wears glasses for certain things, and so they're not always on their person. But if you were to ask them, well, do you need glasses? They might not know, right? So just writing these things down is really helpful for anyone else who's stepping in. Maybe there's dentures or other special utilities that they need during a mealtime. I've worked with some folks that have Parkinson's, and because of the shakiness, they have certain cups that they use that have a lid and a straw, or special plates that have sides up on them, utensils that are like wider, I don't know what you want to call it, part of the spoon, or you know what I mean. So just easier to handle And so if there's anything like that that you think would be helpful if the person had to leave the home, making sure that that is written down somewhere. Also like bathing equipment or things in the bathroom that just make life easier for them. It could be as noticeable as a shower bench or chair, but what if it is just more like a toilet riser? Or what if it's special lighting over the sink so they can really see things? So, it's making those little notations and notes for other people, especially if your person's going to leave the home and go to their home. What are some things that they might want to think about in terms of, do you have these things already set up, or would it be easier for you just to stay in our home with this individual until you return? So just kind of give some thought processes on that. Of course, mobility aids such as canes, walkers, wheelchairs, communication devices. It could be they're using an iPad to communicate with FaceTime with others, or these microphone with the hearing aids that we talked about earlier. Thinking about their sleep. Some people need a CPAP machine, or maybe they need earplugs to have at night. Maybe they have a special pillow that keeps them more elevated when they sleep. So all those types of things can make a huge difference for someone in terms of when you have to step away. There is a worksheet in your book as well to kind of help you fill those things out. And it does even have great examples in there of what it is and where you keep it. Because you can't pack everything, right, that they need day to day. So just knowing where to find these pieces of equipment can be really helpful for someone else. There's also important documents that are listed here in this workbook for you, including, as we mentioned, health documents, legal documents, financial documents. What I love about this workbook, it's even giving you space to say, where do I have that? Right? Because you may be like me where it's work in progress and you don't have everything all together quite yet. So maybe you have health information in one binder, you have legal documents in a safe, you have financial documents, somewhere else. Maybe it's all on your computer. This just allows you to not necessarily have to recreate what you've already done, because this is a lot of work to do something like this. But if you've already captured some of these areas, I would just say make a note to yourself where it is. And if this is going to be something that you really want to use, this workbook, making sure that you have it filled out so that anybody else who's going to step in could just come and check out this workbook. They don't have to grab everything, but they know where the important information is that you've already put aside. This is pretty comprehensive, but I just want to ask, is there anything that you guys don't see on here that maybe you have thought about or you have already put together?
Working on it.
Working on it. Okay.
I think I mentioned at maybe one of our support group meetings that I purchased something. It's called a knock box, and it stands for next of kin box. That has, it's a filing system that's got a sheet for each one of these.
Nice.
And it's so many things you just don't even think of.
Yeah.
And so I'm partially through it, and I want to get it done so that, like, if something happens to either one of my husband or me, or both of us, eventually our kids will.
What a cool thing. Where did you find that, Mary?
I saw an ad for it on Facebook pop up, or maybe on TV at night too.
Interesting.
What's it called? Yeah, NOK box for next of kin.
NOK box.
And I'm sure there are other similar things out there, but my friend and I kind of researched it, and we both bought it. So we're trying to get together once in a while and work on them together.
What a cool thing.
And we're going to plan our funerals too.
Planning your funeral?
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Hopefully it won't have to be access for many years.
That's right.
But we plan events and parties together a lot. And so we're of the mindset, if you want something to be how you want it, you should just plan it.
Right. Well, I think more people are saying, why wait till I'm dead to have people say nice things about me? So I want to have a party before then so everybody can tell me to my face. I thought, well, that's an interesting concept.
Mhm.
But
I have a question.
Yeah.
This might be for you. So if like I would just scan your medical records. I personally would just my portal. I mean, that's gonna be the most up to date. But do they have to do it from your email?
so if you were not on their list to receive the
But
portal,
even like, here we're checking like where's the location of them, like where they could go and get the most up to date. But yes,
you wrote,
that too
if you
would be.
wrote portal, like mail portal,
If it were me, I would just give my loved one my password. I log in first,
From your
and then they
your
get
email. Yeah. Because it has to be connected with your email, doesn't it? I mean, you have to be.
If you're wanting someone else to be able to access it separately, I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
But you can call the office.
good question.
Yeah.
Thinking outside the box, Karen, that's good. All right, so the last little bit on here is kind of those support networks. And we kind of have them listed in like 3 different categories. You have your more informal, which is family, friends, neighbors, people whom you know at social groups who you really connect with and trust. They might be able to be a support to you or even step in when you need it. But there's also then the formal caregivers, which we then know as our home health agencies or companion programs. It's really important that before an emergency happens, you want to try to research or interview the local agencies to create a list of 2 or 3 options that you and your family are comfortable with. It's important that when you are choosing an agency, maybe you ask about, do they do background checks? How do they train their staff? What's the requirements? How does their billing process work? What is the care plan related in the essence of how much time your person needs help to, how long will they be there? And then how do they match their staff with clients? Every agency is going to be a little bit different, but these are some important things that you can be thinking about if you need this level of support or what we call formal caregiving. If and when you decide that your person needs more help than what can be offered in the home, you may want to look at senior living communities. There are communities that offer short-term respite, which is that temporary break, anywhere from like 2 to 8 weeks, as well as long-term. There are some that offer in terms of emergency, and there's some that are not equipped to do that. So again, you're going to want to do a little research. We did add a list of agencies on the PowerPoint here that we have found recently that do offer that short-term respite. I'm just going to kind of read it for those in the room. We know Madonna Summit and Byron offers short-term respite, Prairie Meadows and Casson, Cottagewood, Shorewood, Riverbend, Madonna Meadows, Meadow Lakes, The Waters, Arbor Garden in Eota, and Family Roots Elder Care in Plainview, as well as Country Cottage in Plainview. Those are just a few that we've reached out to recently that say, yes, we do respite. And all of them are going to have different criteria. Some will put your name on a wait list and pay, some you don't.
Does Madonna Towers still have that program?
They do. I didn't include them because I felt like recently we had someone say you kind of already have to be in to transition over to that. So like they're independent or assisted living folks.
Yeah, that's not how it's presented.
Yeah. So we've had kind of mixed, so I didn't add them just because I'm not 100% sure, but it's always good to just check it out and see. And there's maybe more in our area, but it really comes down to availability, right? A lot of times what we've heard from these kind of facilities is, be sure you tell people don't call today and expect to get in tomorrow. So that's the hard part in an emergency. is that if you're already on a wait list, they might be able to do something. But if you're just calling in for the first time, they need so much paperwork, medical records, things like that, that it's always good to plan for like 90 days out before needing something like this. And so this has been a real hardship for families who are in an emergency, who end up, I think male staff or end up calling family and saying, hey, someone just showed up at the ED with their care receiver who has Parkinson's or a dementia or has had a stroke and they can't be left alone. They have you listed. Can you come and get them? Right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at, which is really, really hard, which is why we want to create this. Because if we have to rely on those family or friends to step in, we just want to make sure that they're getting all the information that will help this make a smooth transition as possible. Some of the things they said to keep in mind about these senior living communities is you're going to want to know the details of the contract, the finances, whether the facility can meet your care receiver's medical, physical, and emotional needs. That some folks have shown interest in adult day programs. I'm going to say that yes, they exist, but they're very few and far between. And usually they don't have capacity to take on new people. So if you are interested in learning more about group setting type respites, please just let me know and we can chat about what Elder Network is offering. It's not for everybody, but it is an option. Okay.
Holly,
So, yes.
can I just add something to that? I have looked into some locations for respite care.
Yes.
Just two that I have really looked into. And in both cases, they say they will do respite care, but only if they have vacancies. And so you can't get in if there's no vacancy. And it's even hard to plan because they often don't know when they're going to have a vacancy.
Right.
So respite care is a bit of a challenge.
Yes. I
It's
appreciate
almost
that
like they
insight,
tell
Mariana.
you when they can take you. You can't ask them.
Right. I always thought, why can't it be like when you're reserving a hotel room? You call in and say, I'm reserving for, this date. And they'll say, okay, well, we'll write you in. And if something changes, we need, so many day notice or whatever, but otherwise you're in. I don't know why they can't make it just that simple. I don't live in that world. Easy for me to judge. I just see it on the other end where families are constantly saying, well, how do I plan? Because I can give them my name, but they're not even sure they'll have an opening. And I also want to say in my research, it seems like those that have immediate openings are in memory care. Mm-hmm. Not everybody who needs a short-term respite has a dementia. I mean, I've had adult children call me and say, I'm looking for a place for my mom and dad to go for 2 weeks because I'm out of town. And I help them in the home almost every day. Neither of them have a dementia. So it got me just thinking about that and how what seems to be available is more in those dementia care facilities, not in just assisted living. So something we need to work on for sure. The book included space for you to write down who are your contacts, whether they're informal, formal, living communities. My suggestion on here is if you've got informal people that you can reach out to, yes, it's asking who they are, their relationship, but maybe in the notes section is you're really listing how they wanted to be helpful. You may have people that only want to do like grocery shopping or take out the mail or take out the garbage or bring in the mail. Or maybe you have folks that said, if something happened, I would be willing to stay overnight. Making those notes for yourself is going to be so important when it actually comes down to it, right? Because you may have number one step up and help, but they're want to look, who else can I call during this time that can relieve me?
That's a very important right there because that is like we see there's so many people that I'll get your mail for you, but I can't shovel your sidewalk. That's a really good idea.
Or I'm happy to do tasks, but I don't want to do personal care.
Mhm.
Don't ask me to give meds. Don't ask me to shower your person. But I'm happy to go to the store and get you groceries or take you to a hair appointment or something. So that note section can really be as detailed as you need it to be to help you in the future. Same thing with the home care agencies and living communities. I was thinking the same thing when Pata and I were going through this today was, you know, besides just calling or touring, I would say in the notes section, again, leave something of a very specific reminder to you of what jumped out to why you would choose this place or this agency. No wait list, great food, wonderful staff, whatever it is, easy to get to, close to home. Because again, if you're not using this information for 6 months, 2 years, are you going to remember just by their name and address to what you really thought when you called or did a tour? So keep that in mind. And I love that they've already created the space for you to do that here in this workbook. They've also, added other supports. So, I mean, it just goes on and on, right? So you can add quite a few people on this list for support, whether it's informal or formal for yourself. All right. So last in this little section before we watch a video is your emergency bag. Now, when I first was going through this training, they said, think about when you were going to have a baby and you had to pack the bag for the hospital and you packed stuff for yourself, but you also pack stuff for the baby. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about what would go in here. First of all, they said plan for at least 3 days. 3 days that you would be out of the caregiving role and someone else would need to step in. They gave a very detailed checklist in this workbook, which is in the pages to follow, but it's really those essential items that will help your loved one feel safe, comfortable, loved, and supported. The bag you choose should be sturdy and big enough to fit everything that you need. You may even want to consider having it on wheels. Because who wants to lug a big bag over their shoulder? You also want it to be easy to reach and grab as you're heading out the door. So I know a lot of people, I don't have one of these, but a lot of people have a closet kind of by their front door and they just kind of shove it in on the bottom. So it's just ready to go. And then they also recommend, and I think this is great, is if for some reason, say you're using this emergency bag, not because you're out of the picture, but because your care receiver has an emergency, have a bag for yourself. Now when you think about essentials, you're thinking clothes, you're thinking shoes, you're thinking, maybe hobbies or activity things to bring. Obviously, you're not going to be grabbing the medications you use every single day and putting them in this bag and leaving them for who knows when. But maybe you want to make a list of the medications you should grab. And where do I have them? Or making copies of those important documents that you might want to have with you. You don't want to have the original, but you want to have copies. So that would be something that you could include. So again, this does a wonderful job of giving you places to start, and you can add, delete, edit any way that you see fit. And again, they're kind of saying for that 3-day time frame.
Is there a suggestion at all by them as to I know as needed to update, but are there annually go through, do they make a suggestion of how frequent?
They don't. I'm going to say seasonally. If you pack a bag now and you've got fall clothes in there, but you don't need this till spring, I would go through it quarterly, to be honest, or seasonally, and make sure that there's appropriate attire in there and things that you're now using, because sometimes our life can really change with our care receiver within just 3-4 months. So I would say quarterly or seasonally, however you want to see that. Just looking here to see if they've added other things. Tips for comfort, throw in a couple photo albums, favorite music, if they like a CD or something like that. Those activities such as crossword puzzles, Sudoku, a book that they might enjoy. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, those comfort items like a blanket or pillow. What I love here too is like anything for noise reduction. So if you kind of are that white noise kind of person when you sleep, maybe you buy a little extra device and throw it in there. Keep the batteries out so it doesn't waste batteries, but throw in that for when you need it. And at least they have kind of that same kind of comfort. Okay, any questions or thoughts on what goes in the emergency bag?
Phone chargers.
Good. Yep, phone charger. They did add that down here to the extra. So it's in there. Yeah, they've been really great. Notebooks, pens, first aid kits, flashlights, batteries, extra coins, or even cash to have on hand. So, all right. Well, we went through that, Pachat. So that one is completed.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to head into watching a video from the renowned dementia educator Tifa Snow. But before we do that, I wanted to recap and want us to remember, ask for what you need and don't let others guess what you need. So make sure to be specific about the ways that others can be supportive. If you're asking for help from those who are not supportive, find another person or agency who will be supportive. And just remember, we're all in this together. Okay, so I have this video. I'm hoping it works, so let me know if the audio works or not. Okay.
Like there should already be music.
As a care partner, why is it so hard to ask for help? Well, because your role as a helper and asking for help feels pretty uncomfortable. It feels like maybe I'm admitting that I'm not competent, I'm not confident, I'm not enough. Or maybe I'm actually grieving and bargaining that I can do this. And the answer I'd say to you is, well, why are you so committed to a solo run here? Caring should be a team sport. And early on, if we don't figure out how to build a team, as this condition, whatever it is, changes, we're going to find ourselves all alone and overwhelmed. So we need to admit and accept there are changes that are going to keep happening. And if I want to be a great partner, one of my roles and responsibilities is to raise my hand and say, I think I could use some help here. Now, the question then becomes, well, who can you ask to help? And what I'd say is, well, you could start with anybody. If you're curious about where I think it's a good place to start small, keep it pretty simple, make sure it's really short. So you only have to deal with this other person for a short window of time. Make sure it's a good social match for you and for the person you're supporting. And maybe make sure it's a good space match where you are comfortable having that support come in and be. And it could be where you are or somewhere else. And also looking at, is it a good sensory match? You like the look, you like the sound, you like the feel of the whole thing. It's a good thing so that it's more easily accepted that you're getting something. And you want to do those simple S's. That's what I talk about, those S's, so that you'll be satisfied. I want to pick something that's going to satisfy me, my partner. There's got to be some sense of satisfaction to it. And when you add all that together, the help was a success. So where can you find these resources, this help? There are often national, international places to look, online, in person, locally. You can also look at, if you decided on a support group, checking out with other members of that support group or leaders of a support group. Maybe you want to check out where someone else was successful in your friend circle. Or maybe ask the professionals who are involved with you. Where do people go for help? Overall, you've got to figure out what help will lift and help you and what help is needed to lift and help the person you're supporting. Because now, as a partner, you're not only doing it for you, you're also doing it for the person you care a lot about.
So the question I have for you is,
Think about dementia and ask,
what are some takeaways that you heard Tifa talk about that maybe you could implement in the days to come?
Thinking about my own family situation, encouraging them to just do something small, just start somewhere, just allow for a little bit of help somewhere and start with that.
Great.
Something that everyone's comfortable with.
It's hard to know what to even ask for. For me, my husband is self-sufficient for the most part, but he's got celiac, so that's a dietary thing, and he's got MS. So our kids, this is something we're navigating through. They don't know how to interact with him now. What to say, what not to say. And so he feels isolated. And so we're struggling with that. So this makes me think he could do this too, but he's more comfortable with me approaching them and trying to clue them in as to how to be helpful.
So I hear kind of making a list might be helpful in terms of, I don't know how to ask for help or what to ask for help with, but making a list of things you would be willing to accept help with, right? You guys do 1,000 things a day, not only for yourselves, but for your care partner. And if you just took a little bit of time and wrote some of those things down, and then when someone's asking, how can I help you? Here's my list.
Yeah.
Here's my list of everything I do in a day or a week or a month. Pick something, right? I've even gone as far as had caregivers right next to those lists of all the things they do is what would they be willing to delegate? What do they still feel like, no, this is really my job. I'm the only one that I really want managing ... Or if no one offers to help and I'm feeling overwhelmed, what would I be willing to let go of for a while? Right? Those are all things that you guys have choices about every single day. And when it comes to, people wanting to help, but not really knowing how, sometimes by giving them a list and saying, well, pick anything that you think you would be comfortable with or within your skill set, it takes away kind of that anxiety driven feeling or emotion of, oh, I don't want to ask. Because as Tifa said, your role as the caregiver is to give the care. So when we're having someone else step in for us, sometimes it makes us feel like we're not good enough. And it's not that at all. It's just a lot to be done on any given day. Right?
Yeah.
And in emergency situations, in health changes for yourself, for instance, is, it's not that maybe you can't do those things, but maybe you shouldn't anymore. Right? To continue to protect yourself or to heal, which I think we're going to hear from these guys too, in terms of how does that look for safety purposes so that you're not overdoing it. I love Tifa. She has lots of videos on the Trualta website. If you haven't already been invited to that, man, let me know. I would love to get you on that. I love how she presents things. She's just very matter of fact, but she's got lots of little great nuggets of wisdom, that we can all learn from. So I would like to now introduce Abby, who is a discharge planner from Mayo Clinic, and have her share a little bit about her role and some things that she has seen family caregivers need help with. Right? Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm Abby. I'm a nurse practitioner from Mayo. with primary care. And for the past just over 10 years, I have been seeing our Mayo Clinic primary care patients in the nursing home setting. And I know there is an OMC. They do the same thing as I do, and we share an office. So there is someone out there for the OMC primary care patients too. And so part of my job is to make sure we have a safe plan to go home, if that is the plan. So I see them right when they come in, and I see them when they leave. So that's a nice thing to watch. So something I was asked to touch on was part of the advanced healthcare planning. And I think just a couple of points. I think this is a great group of people because I can tell you're already forward thinking. You're thinking about what's next, what do I need to do? And one of those things is to fill out an advanced healthcare directive for yourself and help your care recipient if they don't already have one. And I brought a lot of copies. You can take one home with you. There's plenty here for everyone and a couple extras if you want to take them for someone else. And one of the things to point out, an advanced healthcare directive is different than a financial advance directive. Two separate things. I've had families bring into me a financial power of attorney paperwork, and I'm like, oh, that's great, but I don't do anything with that. So having an advanced healthcare directive, filling it out, getting it notarized, and then getting it back to your healthcare provider to have in the electronic medical record. I can tell you there have innumerable times where I have pulled this document from the record and myself and the loved one will sit down.
Abby, I'm gonna have you scoot up a little closer to the speaker.
Yeah.
You're saying it's a little choppy on
Okay,
so I'm
sorry.
trying to make it hear you.
Let me know if this is not better. So part of this, it talks about what is the advanced health care directive and why do we want it? And there's a lot of really great questions in here, which may be difficult, but they're really important. Some of the most important conversations are difficult. And so like here, you can list out things that give me joy and purpose, things that make my life worth living. Things I've had in there: gardening, going to church, volunteering, being present with my family, being a part of the family.
Playing with my puppy.
Playing with my puppy, that's a big
My
one.
husband with dementia, you know, he could get along with, probably without me, but got him his puppy.
That is, I hear that one so often. Pets. If I can't be with my pet, well, I'm okay with moving on. Things or fears about medical treatment. What are you most afraid of? What are you worried about? Writing that down so it can be worked through if we have to. And here's a kind of a checklist. It just goes through agree, disagree. But like, I feel like my life would no longer be worth living if I cannot think clearly or make my own decisions. And so there comes a time when, we'll pull this out and I'll say, your dad 5 years ago, when he was feeling great and knew what was going on, had said, if he has to have artificial nutrition through a tube, that's it for him. He is ready to let nature take its course. And it's nice where it takes away the unknown from the family. It takes away indecision because it's right here. I had a patient just the other week tell me, oh, I like to be in control. I said, well, this is a really good way to be in control to the very end. And so she was motivated then to move forward with working with her family to fill it out. Part of the advanced healthcare directive is identifying who you want to make healthcare decisions for you if you cannot. So someone you know, someone you trust, and someone who knows your wishes. So they're going to have seen this document before and they're going to know where it is. And so it's really important to have these identified and notarized because sometimes when there is an emergency, someone else thinks they're in charge of making decisions, and it takes away this divide between family where it'll say, no, Uncle Jimmy identified his nephew Bob as his healthcare decider. And so I have to go with what Bob says. And then Bob and I refer to documents. So it's really nice when these are done. So helpful for everyone involved.
Those copies go to your primary care doctor, or where do they end up?
I would bring them to your primary.
Okay.
It will be scanned into the record, and then you will always have the original.
Okay. So that was. Is there a timeline, Abby, that you could be updating their forms?
I think anytime there's a major change, and kind of being cognizant of that. I had a person who had a daughter-in-law identified as a healthcare power of attorney, but then the son and the daughter-in-law got divorced. And we didn't know that till we reviewed, and they're like, oh, geez, we need to get that updated right away. And so they did. They got it redone, they got it notarized, and we moved on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I know I have an advance directive on file at Mayo.
Uh-huh.
Can I go on my portal and view that? Or how do I have access to that again?
I don't know how to find it on your portal. Your primary should be able to find it and print it off for you.
So if I send a message to
Yep.
him on the portal,
Yep.
then he could.
Yep. His team will print it off and get you a copy.
It's not easy to find.
Have you found it on the portal?
No. And
I
I've
don't
asked
know
the
that it
question a
exists.
couple different times.
I don't know that it's
Accessible.
accessible.
Might be too confidential. I don't know. Not even for yourself, but just in case someone got a hold of your portal. I don't know. Yeah. Because the biggest thing is you wouldn't want it to be editable. You don't want anyone else to go in and edit it without your consent.
Well, it has
So-
to be notarized, so it would be a copy.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I'll have to send it a note.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great question.
I think so.
So that would be if you want to change it, make changes, or
Well,
just look
yeah,
at it.
or change it or update it
Or
or
remind yourself what it said.
remind it what it says. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to go into the hospital and at one time I put down do not resuscitate. I don't know if I want that now or not or whatever, So I'd like to see what I had said. So memory's not as good as it used to be.
It's written down somewhere.
Yeah,
Just
it's
getting a
written down
hold of it.
somewhere. Yeah.
Because so you access people's healthcare directives as an
Yeah,
employee
I
of
see
Mayo?
them. I know where they are,
Okay,
but I don't know how to tell you where to find them on the portal.
okay. So if there's an
It's different.
emergency and somebody's brought in and they want to find out if they have that,
I
that's
know
one of the
exactly where
first
to look.
things they look
Yeah.
at. Okay.
If someone were to come in and they're not speaking for themselves, we look under demographics, the first person listed, the emergency contact. And then we would make sure that later matches the advanced healthcare directive.
Okay.
If it doesn't, we figure it out.
And it goes to the nursing home if you're.
They need a copy of it. So I see patients at the nursing home. So let's say you're my patient. I want to know what you want, and you have your healthcare record at Mayo Clinic. I access it. I can see it. I know, but the nursing home would want a copy as well.
Oh, that's how that. That's good to know.
There's a comment online. Connie wrote, having a notarized DNR in place or other directives takes a lot of pressure off of loved ones too.
Yes. Yes.
Great
It
comment.
relieves that burden of having to make the right decision because it's already been made.
Can it be overridden though? If you're their healthcare person if they can't speak for themselves?
The advanced healthcare directive.
Yeah. If it said one thing, but you, as speaking for them, you want to say something different than.
I would say the healthcare provider is really going to rely heavily on that advanced directive and find out why do you want it different now
Okay.
and sort through that.
So we're kind of going through this with my uncle right now. Has Parkinson's. He's in a care facility. Every time they have a meeting around his care, they ask him about the DNR. And he says he does not want to be intubated, do not intubate, but he still wants CPR done. But he's really declining and he's 85. And
that sounds like a really good opportunity for a conversation with, you know, like a nurse practitioner, PA, physician with some background in advanced care planning.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you'll hear from me in a moment, but we talk to people about CPR a lot. And I think it's always a good opportunity to talk to them about what that actually looks like. I think a lot of people are like, oh, of course I want CPR. But then as they learn more about it, they're like, oh, that's aggressive. I actually don't want that. So it's with the provider. So we're always encouraging people to talk to the provider, because I don't know that your generally what you want doesn't seem to match this other decision that you're making.
Yeah, it's a big conversation, and you know, you might be able to pair it with, well, I've heard you say you want to focus on comfort and you don't want a lot of intervention, but the CPR is like very intensive and heroic, and
because actually
I mean,
we're going,
It's gonna cause other problems.
because he's at a point now, I'm going to be going there next week, and we're going to have a meeting with hospice team and start hospice care for him. So he's at that point.
yeah.
So we
So
really
then
want
that
to,
kind of comes its own criteria too, the hospice.
Yes.
I have a question about that. My husband goes to palliative care, and the doctor there that sees him, we've seen him 3 or 4 years now, said that people with Alzheimer's react differently to CPR and someone else, and they think it can be detrimental if they get the CPR.
I think the point to be made there is when you have CPR and you have dementia, or many other health problems too, but if you have just dementia and you have CPR and we save your life, you're living, you're alive now. You will never return to that level of quality of life again that you went into the hospital with. It will never be better. And so taking that into consideration, like, do I want to be worse? But there is a statistic that for someone outside of the hospital, let's say in a nursing home who's older, advanced age, lots of health problems, the likelihood of that person surviving CPR and returning to that level of quality of life is less than 10%. I think 10% is generous.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Can you tell me exactly what CPR is?
It's cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So that means I am making your heart beat by pressing on it. I am circulating the blood in your body by pressing on your ribs and breastbone. And I am breathing for you by putting oxygenated air into your lungs for you.
So if you call 911 and they come in and your husband is having a heart attack near death, sometimes some people don't want CPR to be done.
Correct.
And so you should really make that decision before anything happens.
Yeah.
Depending on their health.
Yeah.
You know.
It's about like an emergency surgery. You don't want to be resuscitated. It's on all your documents, but then you get taken into the ER.
Yeah.
And the surgeon, does the surgery. Something happens.
Yeah, so I think that's really important time for conversation. Let's say you've gone into the hospital because you've had a stroke, we'll just say. And up until then, you said, I don't want CPR. I don't want a breathing tube. But without this surgery, what are the risks? What are the benefits? What is the potential outcome? And that's really a conversation for at that moment, given what else is going on.
And I would even say the opposite is true too. Like I have a loved one who has elected not to have CPR, which is a decision I agree with as well. But if he were going into like a surgery because he has some heart trouble, like I think he would probably elect to have that temporarily revoked.
Yeah.
Because he's right there where medical care would take care of it so immediately if it's something related to the surgery he's having. So I would completely see that if he was having a surgical procedure, that he would temporarily change those wishes. And then once he was fine and past that, revert back. So, and I believe surgeons are generally going to go over all of that informed consent at that time. That's part of just their checklist. So I wouldn't use just like a planned surgical procedure as a reason to generally not make those decisions.
I think the other thing that's important is, if you've selected the person who's going to make decisions for you, not only should you keep your advance directive up to date, but you should continue to be talking with that person about what your ideas are, what your goals are, what your level of comfort care that you want, so that you're having a kind of an ongoing conversation instead of waiting till something happens and they have to look at the advance directive. I just think that continuing conversation with the person who's going to make decisions is probably more important than keeping the advance directive up to place, because if you keep talking, if you keep communicating, that person is going to know what you're thinking right now rather than when you did your advance directive last.
I agree. Keeping your people in the loop. Yes. Part of what we were talking about code status or DNR, DNI, I've left what we call a POLST, POLST, provider ordered life sustaining treatment. That's the form that we talk about where we're talking about DNR versus DNI. Do you want everything? Do you want to be sent to the hospital for reversible illness but no CPR? You just want no CPR and focus on comfort and not go back to the hospital. So this sort of like lays out your choices for you. I have left copies, just for you to take and think about, bring them in maybe at your next clinic appointment and talk about it with your provider. So I just left those.
What if your POLST doesn't agree with your advance directive? What do you look at first?
In emergencies, we look at the POLST first.
Okay.
When I'm seeing patients in the nursing home, if the POLST doesn't match the advance directive, we talk about it. There's conversation always.
You don't have a POLST unless you have a certain kind of conditions that
Anybody could have one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
I've only seen them for someone that's got a terminal illness, let's say.
It could be done for any. I think it's most important for people with complex medical issues, but it's important.
And that's kind of where it started, wasn't it? More in the hospice spectrum or nursing home with the POLST, and now it's more.
Well, they're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Anybody in the hospital with serious problems should have this. Anyone in a nursing home, I have colleagues who see patients in home who are not on hospice, but maybe part of the homebound program. It's really free.
Yeah, but I'm just saying when it originally started, where that misconception could be.
Perhaps,
yeah.
That's how I heard it too. People having complex health issues needed a POLST.
Yeah.
It's most important.
Evolving now, so I think
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
We're seeing the benefits, for anybody.
And I'm sorry, you probably said this. I have to take a call. That one has to be signed by a doctor.
Yeah, that's has to be initiated by your doctor.
It should be signed. It needs to be signed by a physician a PA, MP.
And the advance directive, does that still have to be notarized?
It should be notarized. If you cannot get it notarized, it can be signed by 2 witnesses who are not on the advanced healthcare directive. I think I just want to kind of piggyback on what Holly had said earlier about long-term care facilities and making choices. You can, I definitely recommend touring, having a list of questions, asking your questions, and then you can refer to, it's the 5-star ratings. I think it's cms.gov. I wrote this down. Medicare.gov. You can look up their 5-star ratings. And I looked at them before I came. So I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I go here because I'm told to. So, so it was interesting to see the local star ratings. Questions do you have? A lot of information.
Just for my information, I've visited a few of our long-term care facilities here in Rochester, and there's certain things that I like about each one and certain things I don't like about each one. What would you say is the most important thing to be looking for in a long-term care facility if my husband has advanced Alzheimer's? So is it the staffing that's the most important? Is it the layout of the memory care unit that's the most important?
Yeah, I would say for someone with Alzheimer's, really making sure that they are, that's their specialty. So memory care, and how many staff do they have? And I think one of the most important things after doing this for a while is just talking to other friends or family in the community who have had experience with a loved one in that place, if that's possible for you.
Okay.
Because you got to keep in mind staffing can change, right? And so you can tour the place where it's fully staffed and they're engaging and it's wonderful, and then when you need it, maybe it's not, right? So keeping in mind that I think all places can ebb and flow in terms of staffing.
Yeah.
Just everything,
Yeah,
you know?
but I think layout is really important. I mean, myself, from seeing it from the outside, when I think about our people living with the dementia and how life is already a little confusing, to have to walk down long halls and not know which room is yours seems a little bit more cumbersome to me. And I know I'm being biased here and I'm probably over speaking, but that's just something to keep in mind. You know, if they're going to kind of like wandering halls, and you hear people all the time, oh, they get room visitors all the time, people walking into their room. Well, just maybe they didn't know that wasn't their room. You know, so I think layout's important. Yeah. Well, thank you, Abby, so much for your information and sharing. And if folks have more questions, you know, that you've shared today, is there like a good place they should start? Is it just back with their own physician about these questions, or is there another?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Okay.
Connecting with your primary care team.
Cool. Yeah.
I think that's the best place, because then you're all working on this together, because it is an effort. It's an effort on your part. It's an effort on our part. We work together.
Right. Thank you. Well, next we have up is Christopher Kaufman, who's from Adara Home Health, and he is going to be sharing about kind of his role. Thank you so much, and kind of things you can expect if you or your loved one was going to go back home after, like, say, a hospitalization, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Them or
Yeah.
pass them out.
Yes.
So again, yeah, my name is Chris Kaufman, And I've been mostly distracted by this book in the background called Grandpa and Lucy, because I have a 2-year-old Lucy, and Lucy has Grandpa as well. So, but I also appreciate your guys' forward planning, because I'm in the same boat as you. So I kind of understand this from both sides. I have a father who is just about ready to be 87. And my wife and I have offered for him to move in with us on now 5 occasions. So we're wondering like what the proper number of asks is before he accepts. And I wonder if I will eventually regret that number of asks. But he is starting to, I would gently say, fail in areas of life, but he's still succeeding in enough areas that he declines that question from us so far. But yeah, forward planning is super important. Just like Abby was saying, like identifying those people in your life that can be helpful with different areas is also great. If you have the luxury of spreading them out between people, even better. I will just saying things speak to my own experience with my father, that like I'm the executor of his will. I'm also like the trustee of his trust, different things like that. Well, my sister is in charge of medical decisions, which is ironic because she's not in the medical field, and my brother and I are. So I'm not sure what led to that decision, but my sister's like, "Oh, I'm just calling you to make all these decisions," so it's fine. And then my brother, probably rightfully so, is in charge of my dad's dead body. So that's how my dad has divided it out between us. So as much as you can kind of do that, if you're blessed with that, I think that is a proper move to make if it works in that circumstance, and is at least less burdensome on all of us kids as well. So of course I said that I'm from Adara Home Health, but I hope that I'm speaking really to all of you from all of home health, because that's what I would most like to do, is just educate you on what home health can really do. And I didn't miss Karen. Karen was already speaking?
No, I didn't speak. I just am
Okay.
attending.
Oh, you're attending.
Yes,
That's great.
I'm learning.
Well, Karen will correct me on anything I'm wrong about, like a whole different part of home health. But when we get to home health, there's 2 areas of home health, and it's very confusing because they're all just, everybody refers to them as home health, but they're completely different companies and objectives. So one, if I stand right here, is a Medicare certified home health agency. And that's what I do, and that's what Adara does. And then if I stand over here, I refer to them, but Karen can help me with this, as the non-Medicare certified agencies, but we also sometimes refer to them as PCA agencies. What else do you guys like to go by? It's hard to.
And I think of PCA. I don't say PCA because PCA to me is Medicare.
Yeah.
That one over there.
No, it's not. It's not.
I think of it as like county program.
Yes, it's
You
true.
know,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
would always say home health aid,
Yes.
even though that's your terminology
Right.
too, but
Right.
actually,
So
it's the same.
you see, the 2 professionals are confused about terminology, so we understand that you also would be confused. There's not good. There's this. It's very clear to Karen and I who's doing what. In fact, even though we're both home health, we don't even view each other as competitors, even though we work in the same space. It's so we get it if you're ever confused. Just ask the questions, that don't just be blunt about the questions that you have about the services that you need. Because I'm sure Karen at home and said they get calls where they have to be like, "Oh, you need to call Adara." We get calls every single day where we're like, "Let us give you 3 places. Number 1 on the list is home instead. Let us give you 3 places that you can call, because you're not actually looking for us. You're looking for somebody else. Like, that's not what we do." So I will speak a little bit about both, but I'll try to stay on topic of the Medicare certified home health agency. So that's us and Adara again. And the easiest way to explain this, which is not like, it's like 99% accurate, is we are professionally licensed individuals that are giving professionally licensed care inside the home. And what I mean by that is we're registered nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. And that is typically the reason we're going into somebody's home, is to give specialized care in those areas. And typically it is short-term in nature. And so it starts with the doctor, it starts at the nursing home or the hospital. They're recommending home health services, and they want some professionals in the home. Now, I say that's like 99% accurate because there's some things that we do that doesn't fall under that bill. And also, it's not to negate the non-Medicare certified home health agencies because they have nurses too. They're just not in nearly as often. They have like aides in there that are a little bit more often, and they're typically longer stretches of time. So there is some overlap, but all the time, like we're talking to each other. So just ask the blunt questions if you're confused about what agencies are available. I don't think while we can, I don't think there's any agencies in this market that do both. Don't think there are. I think we're the last ones. We used to do both, but we shut that part of our business down in 2015. So yeah, I don't think there's any that do both in this market or anywhere nearby here. It's kind of hard to do both. It gets too confusing operationally. So first of all, how do you qualify for our services would be what I would start with. And you qualify for our services based on having some kind of what we would call skilled need is the terminology we use most often with fellow professionals. You have a skilled need, or your loved one or care partner has a skilled need. So they need physical therapy. They need, nursing assistance. They've gone into the hospital, they've had 5 medication changes, they have a whole new diagnosis, and you still need some education on that. You still need to make sure the medications are being delivered properly. Now, we are not handling medication administration. Most of the time, we're not handling like the actual giving of the pill or the shot. But we certainly teach on it. We help the caregiver be successful in doing that. So we might do it very short term while we're teaching somebody. And so there's a skilled need there versus what we might call a unskilled need, but that's not good terminology either because like it's still very skillful of like providing like activities of daily living, like meal prep and showering assistance or dressing, just general dressing assistance that is just like normal dressing. We're not talking like you've got a body cast on and figuring that out. Like that would be a very skilled need. So those things are obviously still skillful. So I'm not denigrating them in any way. But obviously when somebody just needs help putting their socks on, you don't need to bring the physical therapist in to do that, and nor will insurance be okay with that. Right? Yes.
Quick question. Would you ever do wound care?
Yes.
We do that.
Yes. So skilled need, wound care, always a skilled need, unless it's more like just simple bandage in nature. And then there's a delineation that not all wound care is skilled need, but that's
like for infections and ongoing infections and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
But is that still, because I get confused on this sometimes with people, but is that still like if are you still wanting to teach somebody to do that?
Correct.
So you won't continuously come in.
Yeah, it depends on the insurance payer. So I can't make, is probably why it's confusing. I can't make any absolutes on that. But generally we are, if we're not healing the wound, like it's not progressing quickly, insurance is not going to pay for that forever. So it's like, how are we teaching somebody to do it? Hopefully, like we're helping it get healed. But that's not even a great rule to follow because it depends on the insurance payer.
So Medicare pays first with this and then the insurance company?
Well, I'll get to that in just a moment. I'm going to talk about payment for services.
Okay.
Yeah, so to qualify, like there's a skilled need, and then also the person is generally speaking homebound. I use that term. As you can tell, everything in home care needs like additional explanations and isn't as simple as it sounds. So if it's just generally difficult to get out, we call that homebound. So does somebody still go to a special event like a wedding? Yes. Does somebody still go to doctor's appointments? Yes. Is somebody wants to go see a friend because they're on hospice, they might not see him again? Totally fine. Like unusual circumstances, totally fine. Is that person going out weekly to play bridge for fun? That answer is yes, and they probably don't qualify for us because insurance is not okay with that. They would say, well, if you're going to go out and play bridge with your friends weekly, then you're going to go into the clinic for all of your appointments. So it's kind of a way to think about that. You're allowed to get your hair done weekly, and that still qualify for home health because this law was developed in the 50s.
Is church too or not?
Church too. Yes. Church services weekly and getting any kind of hair appointment as often as you want. Totally fine. Because, there hasn't been an edit to that law since when everyone still went and got their hair done. So those are fine. It's still the law. Yeah. But yes, church services. So, but know that homebound status is a clinical designation. That means we make it. You don't have to figure that out. No matter what you say, we might not believe you. We make that clinical designation, and usually that's to your benefit because we see people all the time that might still be going out regularly because they just have to go to the grocery store. But we might say that is clinically, that is unsafe. They should not do that. They are homebound, and we will address the whole like grocery shopping aside. So it's a clinical designation, not what is practically happening in the home. So that's why it's a very gray area, and we're accustomed to dealing with that gray area on a daily basis. Yeah, but to qualify, like generally insurance pays almost all of the services for us, and this is where I get to toot Medicare's horn, which I don't do often. Medicare pays 100% for our services, and all the Medicare Advantage plans, as far as I'm aware, well, the vast majority of them follow Medicare's rules as well. So they pay 100% for home health services, as long as, again, that there's that skilled need that's present. And it sounds really nice in Medicare, but really paying for us to treat you for 60 days is cheaper than one night in a hospital. So that's why Medicare will pay for it. It sounds very nice, but they view us, Medicare views us as like hospital prevention. Like they just want you to stay out of, they want your loved one to stay out of the hospital. So if it means we need to get involved, they'll pay 100%. They'll be totally fine with it because it generally means we're keeping someone out of the hospital. And but the beauty of that is like the individual is hopefully where they want to be. They generally don't want to, nobody generally wants to be in the hospital. So we can help them stay at home and be successful there.
So
yes.
I referred my father-in-law to you recently. I don't know if you heard this story.
I don't know if I heard a story around it, but I knew that.
So we were waiting for him to go to his doctor appointment, which I didn't attend with him. My sister-in-law
The
did.
face-to-face.
And the doctor would refer it because of Mayo going to be changing their insurance. He would make a referral for therapy.
Oh, I don't know why that is at all.
Because they're not going to accept any of the, is it Medigap? What am I?
Medicare Advantage. But I don't know that wouldn't affect you guys.
No.
Unless they were going to try to get them to go in person, which wouldn't have happened. But
yeah, I don't know why the doctor wouldn't refer that. It sounds like they're confused on the rules.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Yes. But generally we are like shorter in nature. I would say the top reasons that we are utilized are for like there was a recent hospitalization or a skilled nursing facility stay would be a top reason. So just to help transition to home, a new diagnosis, a loved one just being concerned, a lot of changes to a medication, because the doctors always think exactly what they say in the doctor's appointment is exactly what's happening at home. And that's generally never the case. Like generally those medications are not quite right in the home, or like there's expired medications in the home or things like that. So part of our very first visit as part of an admission is to do a home. Every admission comes with doing a whole medication reconciliation. So we're comparing exactly what's available in the home with exactly what the doctor thinks is happening. We're also doing a whole home safety assessment to see like, are there recommendations we can make to somebody's home? And we will always make the recommendation. We're not like the police to ensure that somebody does them. Like it's still like, we try to do it respectfully. Like it's still someone else's home. And then we also do a functional assessment as well, just like how is this individual actually moving around their home safely. So those would just be normal parts. And then of course, whatever in addition to that, what are the doctor's other orders that they have? Like maybe they have wound care, the doctor's ordered physical therapy, because maybe there's a humeral fracture or something like that. So, but those are things that we automatically do. That's just like a regulation of ours that we do as part of every admission. And then in addition to what the doctor orders.
Would you agree that when someone's in a rehab facility, because this is how I feel, that more than likely they would qualify?
Oh, 100, like 100% of the time. And it's amazing that
the facility's like,
they never do.
That's why
It's amazing.
Call directly
Yes.
to you guys.
Yes, it is. I don't think that they're in this day and age with how, so we live, I'll get on a little bit of a soapbox, but it's a good one to hear so that you can advocate for your loved ones. I don't think in this day and age with how advanced medicine is and how people can live so much longer with complex disease processes that it's 99% of the time anybody that's been in the hospital for a couple of days, if you're above 60, you've been in the hospital for a couple of days, and or you've spent any time, no matter your age, in a skilled nursing facility, like 100% of those people are appropriate for home health. Because there's just, I mean, our average patient has 30 diagnoses and 30 or 40 medications. And so if you're doing better than that, good for you. But that's just like, and so those are the people that get referred to us. But just having one medication change to just learn about that medication and watch for side effects is an appropriate reason, is a qualifying reason for insurance to have home health. And so it's really amazing that our referral partners don't refer more. Like we have to hire somebody to advocate for people in skilled nursing facilities because it's just unrealistic to expect that somebody could be in the hospital for 3 days and then go over to a skilled nursing facility for, I don't know, 3 weeks, and then think that where they've just been cared for, they've been bathed, they've had medications issued to them, they've had whatever other disease process care, and then you're like, okay, what 11 a.m. is discharge, and then you're fine. Like it's almost unrealistic, but it happens all the time. Like, and that's why we're always talking about rehospitalizations. The rehospitalization rate for somebody that has home health is incredibly low. The hospitalization rate for somebody that has not is incredibly high. And it's unreal that we're not like, we don't have to hire more people to man our phones.
I just have a thought or a question. I've had families say, so my individual, was in rehab and it's been 6 months. Okay, they've been home with me and they had the at home, but now it's been 6 months and we're worried that they're losing more.
Happens all the time.
Can they just call your agency as an example and say, we would just like to hire you to come in and do therapy? Can they do that without having?
So short answer is yes. It wouldn't be my recommendation. So the short answer is yes, they could just like hire us to help with that. It's not my recommendation because that's a little bit harder to do from a regulation standpoint. Even though it might be like private pay and hire us, we still have to follow all the same rules because we still have to we're Medicare certified. That's the name of our business. We still have to follow all of Medicare rules for every client, no matter if they're Medicare. And so there's a lot of regulation with that. But I would say we would never want to start off that way. We'd want to just go to the doctor, get another referral, which the doctors could do telehealth until the government shut down. And so we think that'll come back as soon as the government comes back up to life. It's just, it was a temporary order. So when the government shut down, we can't do telehealth anymore for a doctor's visit and qualify for home health. But that should come back to life. And, but I would say if they've had some kind of regression, they're probably appropriate to have insurance pay for it again. Okay. So we see what we lovingly call frequent flyers all the time, where we care for them. and we maybe provide PT, OT, we discharge them. 3 months later, here comes their referral again. And it's completely appropriate. Unfortunately, like in a perfect world, we could tell Medicare, like this person is just going to regress if we can't keep treating them, but it's not allowed.
So how often then do you work in conjunction with Above and Beyond? Just for once you're finished, for them to have continued care at home, like for private pay? Does that happen very often or
Yeah,
not?
we recommend it a lot, but I think that just from like a caregiver's perspective or even the client's perspective, we get a big sense of like they're just finally ready to like not have people constantly in their home. That's a real thing. Like we're violating people's personal space and their living space. And we try to be respectful of that. We try to see if there's like a burnout there, like how do we just decrease or stagger out our services so that we're not, if we have nursing PTOT in there, we could have people making visits like 4 or 5 days a week. And that's sometimes just feels too heavy. So I think a lot of times people want to just see what they can do. And that happens coming away from the skilled nursing facility as well.
Mhm.
Like there people are making the referrals, and then by the time we're calling them just 1 day later, they've agreed to this service in the skilled nursing facility. We're like 1 day later, we're coming later today, and they're like, I've changed my mind. I'm just like, I just need to relax. And we're like, oh, that's a terrible idea. Like,
That happens a lot.
it does. Yeah, it does.
Is there a limit on your time frame?
Yeah.
How do you decide the time frame for all of these different illnesses?
Yeah, it's decided by both clinical presentation of the client, the recommendations of the skilled professional, and insurance coverage. But generally, it's the second one that helps the most is the clinical recommendations of the skilled professional. Like, because especially for our therapies, and I'm a PT by nature, I don't think I said that, I'm originally a PT, is if there's a reason that somebody is still like working on getting better and they haven't plateaued, well, then we're allowed to keep treating within reason. I mean, the longer we go, the more likely Medicare is going to audit that. So we have to be careful. Yeah, it just depends. But on average, we're in there for 6 weeks. I'd say 6 weeks is the average discharge time. But there might have been 1 or 2. If somebody got nursing, PT, and OT, maybe it's just one of the disciplines. Like maybe it's just the physical therapist that was in there for about 6 weeks. Maybe nursing was like, we did disease education. They're doing great with their medications. They're doing like there's no, I'm now just looking at them when I go. So nursing might have discharged at like week 3 or 4 because they were out of that more acute part of their disease process. Like maybe the person had COPD, and by the time they got to week 3, like the medications had done a good job, and like nursing isn't noticing any problems. Lungs sound great. So then nursing has been discharged and they're just working on stamina and balance there. That might be a good example.
Is there a certain time frame you have to go in the hospital? I know that's been a frustration just in general. I hear from people is like, well, they're not going to get here for another, which we have that too, for another week or 2.
Yeah.
Is there a certain, like, are you required that you have to make that one visit?
Yeah. So we are required by the time when the referral is made from the doctor and or the person discharges, whichever comes second. By that time frame, we have 48 hours to get into somebody's home. Now, I would like to say in a perfect world, we saw everybody within that 48-hour mark. Our company, we reject referrals if we can't get there within like 5 to 6 days, but we are required by law to tell both the provider and the person that like, we'd be happy to help you to just be like 72 hours until we're there. So I can't say that every agency follows that rule, but that is what we do at Adara is we have to tell the provider. We're legally obligated to tell the provider right then, like before we accept the referral, that we could service this person, but it'll be day 3 or day 4, not day 1 or 2. Can't say all of our competitors do that. So, but that is technically what we're supposed to do according to law, 48 hours. Yeah. Yeah, because for that very reason, like when people go back to the hospital, it's usually in that 40 to 72 hour mark. So then the provider and the person that needs care should have the option to shop someone else. But yeah, so that is the regulation, because then the doctor has to order that care and start later. So yeah, that's a good question. I would say the number one reason that we see people long term might be for like shower assistance. And even then, we always try to be transparent with people that we're maybe not the best agency for that. Like we have really high expenses, so our expenses for showering assistance are higher than our probably higher than our non-Medicare certified folks. But sometimes they just really like the person and they're like, well, it's not that much higher. That mom really likes Rachel. Rachel's our most beloved home health aide. So that's a real person. Mom really likes Rachel. So not involving somebody else in this. And that would be a reason that we could take them, we call it flip them over to private pay for that. We have, since you asked about therapy, it's very unusual for us to send somebody private pay for therapy. It's very expensive, especially once we just go through regulations, overhead cost, travel to and from somebody's home, malpractice. When you total all those up, our cost to provide therapy services, private pay is very high. We do have one person that's been getting private pay for 3 years, twice a week. So her bank account does not run dry, I guess. Yeah. So it's very unusual. And again, like there's not usually a reason for it. Like I field those phone calls and I say, I hear you. You may have the financial resources, but it's proper of me, even though insurance will pay us less. It's proper of us to go through the doctor first, because more than likely it's going to be covered again, instead of trying to go right to private pay. Yeah, so that is, but I'd be happy to take any questions about what home health looks like. We've got Karen here as a participant that can answer on her side as well.
And Christopher did bring in brochures also, so if anybody would like a brochure of Adara's, what up here for you.
Sorry. What insurance is best to work with? What insurance company?
We actually, so Adara works across the entire state. We have 7 branches that work across the entire state. And I haven't heard of an insurance in Minnesota that has been a problem for us. So we're a Minnesota-based company. Our owners feel very important that we should work for all of Minnesota. And so we do. Now, the insurances that cause clients the most problems because of either like really high deductibles or just they nag at them would be UHC and Humana. So those, even their Advantage plans, like give people the most problems, but we're in network with both. We know how to handle both of them. But
United Health, right?
Okay. So a lot of times United Health plans, the Medicare Advantage plans will still have like a 6,000, I've seen $10,000 deductibles, whereas like straight Medicare it's zero deductible to just instantly use home health. It's just
just a quick question. Yeah. So somebody said Mayo was not accepting the Medicare Advantage plans, all of them.
I know Humana is one of them.
United Healthcare is one of them.
And Humana are the only 2 that I've heard of. But I'm hearing stories that people are saying these Advantage plans they're not as good as just regular Medicare.
I don't think so. I don't understand in Minnesota, personally speaking, why anybody would choose an Advantage plan. I think it's a sales gimmick. But once you're on an Advantage plan, it's difficult to get off of the Advantage plan. If my dad lived in Minnesota, he does not. But actually, he's just going through this. I was just on the phone with him just yesterday. He was like, I'm looking through all these Advantage plans. I need help. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty easy answer for me. Pick none. But he will say, and I totally get it. He'll be like, but this plan and this plan cover like these medications really well and this and this. And I was like, but for every one thing that they do well, like they're in it to make money. For every one thing they do well, there's something that they're not covering well to make up for that. And that can be good. Like it could work out well for him, but you never know that fine print areas that don't do as well as Medicare.
So can't you just drop
can a person just drop that plan?
You absolutely can. There can be complications with that once you've been on one for a while.
Well, they're not,
But yes.
UCare is just gone now. I mean, they're not even operating anymore in Minnesota. I mean, they're stopping now this year.
Yeah, we've
So-
received some conflicting reports on that. So I can't answer that. We've received 2 different memos from them as a company, because I work in operations for our company. We received 2 conflicting letters from them, and we don't know what is true. So we're struggling with that. Starting 1/1, like one letter literally said that they will drop all plans, and another letter seemed to like walk that back. So we don't even have a clear direction of what's happening on 1/1.
Yeah, welcome to government.
So
Will this be on just original Medicare then?
I will just speak personally and say I think so.
And then
But
you
it is
buy
a
plan for the drug.
Yeah, it's an absolute personal plan. I'm not here to disparage like Advantage plans. I personally have not seen those go well. Now, the vast majority of my experience is in home health and a personal experience of my father. But I mean, I go to conferences, and I think medical professionals all the time wonder how Advantage plans are so successful in signing people up, because I think from the medical community, those of us in the medical field are like, why are more people on Advantage plans than straight Medicare? It's hard for us to figure out what the answer to that is, but they're certainly good at selling their product.
So Humana is the cheapest for Part D, but doesn't sound like you want to do anything with Humana either. Not heard bad things about Humana.
I mean, there's always going to be a list of pros and cons.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really predict things. But what is very predictable is straight Medicare. It hasn't changed in ages.
Yeah.
And so it's A and B. Medicare is very predictable. Now, will you have to will the Advantage plan not make you pay for X, Y, and Z? Absolutely. And so there are definitely situations where people can really make out better on an Advantage plan.
You gotta do your homework.
Yes, but doing your homework on those things is so hard. It would be hard for me, and I'm in the profession. But yeah, I mean, my advice to my dad was like, well, please pick none. And he's like, well, you work in Minnesota, I live in Kentucky. And I'm like, my answer's still the same. But is he going to listen to me? No, he's going to pick one because he thinks it's going to give him a better deal. And it might, but it might also, like, you have to go to the hospital and do something else. It might also bite him in the butt.
Yeah.
So it's hard to predict, because I can't even ask his son, as much as I would want to, research all 5 Advantage plans that are currently on his Excel spreadsheet to see which one would be better for him. I would just be like, just pick regular Medicare.
Our Advantage plan has been really good for us.
That's great. And see, people say
Yeah.
that, and that is true. So like both things are true. Again, I'm not like, that's just my personal experience and what I would probably always lean towards, because that's predictable. I know what it is, but it doesn't mean that there's not really successful situations with Advantage plans. And so it's just very difficult to figure that out.
So when you have just Part A and B, and then you have to have a supplemental plan, so you're paying for Part B through your Social Security. If you're collecting, it comes out automatically. So then you have to pay over and above that for a supplemental plan. So when we looked at those costs and our plan we chose, we paid a 0 monthly fee.
Yeah.
Now it's up to $18, and now it's going away. But
and that's worked well for you.
Yes.
Yes.
My
And so
husband has had a lot of medical stuff in the last year and a half, and we've paid hardly anything.
It's just very hard to predict like how well that's going to go. And so I admit, like, I'm somebody that just leans in the camp of like, well, just give me what's predictable. If it's going to cost a few extra dollars per month, but like every medical professional knows how to deal with Medicare. But even if I include my own company, like, there are so many Advantage plans, and if we're constantly trying to figure out like, well, what does this one require? That's probably ridiculous. What does this one require that we also think is ridiculous? But so it's just like, we got to jump through the hoops. And at some point, there are some medical professionals that just won't jump through those hoops. So then it's like, well, is your Advantage plan limiting you for who you want to see? But maybe not. Like there are Advantage plans that will just follow to the T almost everything that Medicare does. And there are Advantage plans that won't.
And they
So
can change during the time
Yeah.
that you're on them, they can change.
Yeah.
And they tell you, we can change when we want to. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think
So-
my experience is the vast majority of those changes happen on 1/1 of each year. So that's why like you should do like I definitely would recommend, even if you're very happy with your Advantage plan, totally fine. But really look at that when it's coming to this time of year to be like, are they changing anything on
that I
1/1?
Yeah, that I needed,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
things that I relied on,
yes.
do I still need to rely on them
Yeah.
or not?
Because
Right.
the professional has to accept Medicare too.
Right.
There's probably a
And
lot.
I don't mean to cut
Yeah,
you off.
no,
I just,
please.
I want to be
Those are
conscientious
great
of your
questions,
time.
yeah.
I know this, we should have left more time for you.
Yeah,
And
no.
Abby, this was great.
That's such good questions. Thank you all for letting me
Thank you.
come with you. But my end all be all is use home health services, whether it's the Medicare and non-Medicare, like they're here for a reason. It's to help you as caregivers, help your loved ones, help you, even if it's just for a short period of time. I always tell people, what's the worst thing that we're gonna do? Come out to your home, for free, essentially. We're gonna come out to your home for free and tell you you don't need our help. Like that's the worst thing that happens. It almost never happens because there's generally something somebody needs help with for at least a couple of weeks. But that's the worst thing that's going to happen. So don't like if your loved one, if somebody's recommending that, your loved one's like, I don't know, I'll think about it later. People think about it too long.
Yeah.
So be there to be like, nope, what's the worst that happens? They just don't need to help us. Just say yes. Well, that's what we're here for.
Just say yes.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, in the 7 minutes we have left, Pacha and I just have pretty much just one more, big slide we want to talk about, which is that self-care, right, for all of you as you continue to navigate. So, Pacha, take it away.
Yeah, so given the time, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about self-care tips. So, when you're thinking about rest, sleep, and diet, think about 1 to 2 things that you can work on. I think that's something important with self-care is that you should have realistic goal settings so that you're more likely to do them. So, something as simple as drinking water, before drinking coffee in the morning might be something that you might be able to do. Um, when thinking about self-care, it's also important to think about your support network. Do you have a support network and how often do you meet and when do you reach out to people? If you don't have a support network, um, we encourage you to reach out to people who you would feel comfortable in that community of support, or also just engage with the resources we have in your binder. An important part of that is sort of just asking for help and also accepting that help when offered. So think about one thing that you would let someone help you with this week. And another thing to keep in mind is just acknowledging your emotions and feelings and knowing how we react to them. I think a lot of times when you're put in that caregiver role, sometimes you can feel frustrated, sad, and even lonely. It's important to acknowledge those feelings, but there's a difference between reacting and responding to those situations. When you're feeling lonely, you can react and feel like you have to take all of this weight on your own and that you're the only person who can do this. But by responding, you can be proactive and set plans before so that when you are in that stressful position, you're prepared and you have people there to comfort you. As we wrap up, I hope me and Holly, we hope that today's presentation brings you a little bit of peace and that you know that you're doing your best to plan ahead, not only for your care receiver, but also yourself. And things take practice, so nothing's going to be perfect, but we're all proud of you for being here today as the first step.
Absolutely. Thank you. We do have some resources that we just wanted you to be aware of. So we mentioned that the workbook came out of TrueAlta. So if you're interested in getting on that and you haven't already, let me know. You do need to be invited by a caregiver consultant, which I am, so I'm happy to invite you as long as I have an email. One of the resources that we didn't talk about today, but we wanted you guys to know about, was that Southeastern Minnesota Center for Independent Living, or known as CEMSIL, has services if you're looking for like home adaptations, such as ramps or other things that you might need to be able to keep yourself or your care partner at home longer. Another update is the Area Agency on Aging, or Senior Linkage Line, has had a name change. So now it is Minnesota Aging Pathways is what they're going by. The same 1-800 number, so that's good. So if you are needing supports of what's just in the area, who you can call on, that 1-800 number for Senior Linkage Line still is the same. Of course, we have Elder Network on here. One thing I just wanted to mention, as I was looking through the True Alta website for other TIPA Snow videos for this, there was a gentleman that had made a comment about, it's called Snug Safe. And Snug Safe is actually a free app that you can download onto your smartphone. And it is kind of like a life alert, but it's for yourself. And you set when you would want timers as like a personal check-in. So say you want to be checked on by 9 o'clock every morning. Your app will just send you a message. Here is your message, or here's your reminder. It looks like a big green button with a check mark. All you do is hit that, and it says, thank you for checking in.
Is there a charge for it?
It is free.
What's it
You
called?
Snug Safe.
Snug, like SNUG.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can go to snugsafe.com, or you can pull up your apps on your phone and put that in, Snug Safe, and you can download. It's a free app. And they said it's great for anybody who is but not a senior, anybody who lives alone and is maybe concerned about, if something happened to me, how long would it take for someone to find me? Or I have pets in the home, and if something happened to me, what would happen to my pets? So it checks in with you. If you do not answer within, I don't know how much time, a couple minutes maybe, it will notify your emergency contact people. So you do have to put, like a lifeline, you do have to put your emergency contacts in. It will then reach out to them and say, we had a reminder come up on so-and-so's phone to check in. They haven't. Can you go check on them? At least it's getting people to your location. So great suggestion, great tip. I'd never heard of it before, but I think that would go well for a lot of folks that we see, since there are becoming more solo seniors out there that might be interested in something like this. We are going to end for today, but any thoughts, questions you guys have in terms of what you heard, or next steps for yourself before we adjourn in 1 minute?
I've been trying to get on Trialta, and they only have Eastern time and Pacific time. What does that mean? Where's Central Standard Time? Do we figure that out, or how does that work?
Interesting. For
You know,
like support groups and webinars and things?
Yeah, the webinars only have Pacific time and
Eastern time.
So I don't know what that means.
I would think you would have to figure out that Central time for yourself.
So that means they just didn't put it in there, but it still stands.
Yes.
We can get on there at our
Yep.
Central time.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that confusing.
Yeah, it's interesting, since it's a Minnesota-based web
Yeah, they
site that
they-
they didn't have Central time.
No, they
listed
have,
for us.
Eastern time and Western time, but nothing in between.
Interesting.
Maybe that's something to let them know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I haven't gone on it because I don't know what time it is. I mean,
Well, no, Eastern is an hour ahead.
yeah,
Pacific's gonna be the hour behind.
so we just figure that out on our own.
When
and
you-
or not. I think
Pacific?
Pacific aren't they 2 hours behind us?
Pacific is 2 hours behind, I think.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, that's a good, I mean, since I can get on there, Maureen, I will ask. I will send a note asking, why do you not have central time for your,
And I
things
would
on
like
here?
you to invite me. to
Okay.
that.
I can do that. Yeah. Anyone online have questions or comments? I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This, again, this presentation came out of the need for caregivers having a plan.
All the caregivers
And we are thankful that all of you joined us today. And so with that, we will let you adjourn.
And on, get a
No.
treat.
Yes, please eat. Yes.